There was a time when your mind was quieter, when you could sit with a thought and follow it without interruption, when your attention felt steady, clear, directed. But now something has changed. You try to focus, and within seconds your mind drifts. You reach for your phone without thinking. You switch between tasks. You feel busy, but not productive. And at the end of the day, you wonder where your time went. This is not an accident. Your attention is being pulled in every direction, by distractions, by noise, by constant stimulation. And over time, your ability to focus weakens, not because you are incapable, but because you are untrained. The Stoics understood something most people ignore. Focus is not natural, it is built. The Stoic Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca lived in a world full of pressure, responsibility, and chaos. Yet they trained their mind to remain clear, calm, focused, because he knew that without control of your attention, you have no control at all. If your mind is scattered, your life becomes scattered. If your focus is weak, your results will reflect it. But the good news is this: focus can be rebuilt, discipline can be restored, and your mind can become stronger than it has ever been. But it requires something most people avoid: awareness, effort, consistency. If you want more Stoic wisdom that strengthens your discipline and focus, subscribe to the channel, because everything begins with how you train your mind. 1. Your attention is your life. There is something most people underestimate, something they give away every single day without realizing it: their attention. Your attention is not just focus, it is your life, because whatever you pay attention to, you experience, and whatever you experience repeatedly shapes your thoughts, your habits, your identity. Most people do not control their attention. They react, they scroll, they follow whatever appears, and over time their mind becomes scattered, unfocused, easily distracted. The Stoics understood something powerful: where your attention goes, your life follows. The teacher Epictetus taught that external things are not the problem, it is how we engage with them, and attention is that engagement. If your attention is constantly pulled in different directions, your energy becomes divided. Your focus weakens, your progress slows. But when your attention is directed, something changes. You think clearly, you act intentionally, you move with purpose. A strong person protects their attention. They do not allow it to be controlled by everything around them. They choose where it goes, and they commit to it. Each time you direct your attention, you strengthen it. Each time you lose it, you weaken it. This is the truth, simple but powerful, because control begins with focus. 2. Discipline is stronger than motivation. There is a reason motivation does not last, because it is not meant to. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings change. They rise, they fall, they disappear. If your actions depend on motivation, your progress will always be inconsistent. This is why most people start and stop, start again and stop again. But the Stoics did not rely on motivation. They relied on discipline. The philosopher Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. We imagine effort will be too difficult. We wait until we feel ready. But readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. A strong person does not wait to feel motivated. They act. Because discipline is not about how you feel, it is about what you do. Repeatedly, consistently. Each time you act without motivation, you strengthen your discipline. Each time you wait, you weaken it. Over time, this creates a pattern, and that pattern becomes your identity. A mentally strong person trusts discipline, not emotion, because discipline creates results, and results create confidence, because discipline is what rebuilds your focus. 3. Distraction is a choice. Most people believe distraction happens to them, that it is unavoidable, that it is part of modern life. But this is not entirely true. Distraction is often a choice, not always consciously, but repeatedly. Each time you check your phone without intention, each time you switch tasks unnecessarily, each time you avoid deep work, you are choosing distraction, and over time that choice becomes automatic. The Stoics understood the importance of awareness, because without awareness you repeat patterns without realizing it. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to stay present, to stay focused, to stay intentional, because distraction weakens the mind, it breaks concentration, it reduces clarity. A strong person notices distraction, they catch it early, they redirect their focus, because they understand that focus is a skill, and like any skill, it must be trained. Each time you resist distraction, you strengthen your attention. Each time you give in, you weaken it. This is how your mind is shaped, daily, moment by moment, because awareness is the first step to control. 4. Focus requires elimination. Most people believe focus is about doing more effort, more time, more energy. But that is not the truth. Focus is not built by adding, it is built by removing. Because every distraction you allow takes something from you. Your time, your attention, your clarity, and over time, those small losses become significant. You begin to feel scattered, overwhelmed, unable to concentrate, not because you lack ability, but because your attention is divided. The Stoics understood the power of elimination. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself to do what is essential. Nothing more, nothing less. Because not everything deserves your attention, and not everything deserves your energy. A strong person understands this deeply. They do not try to do everything, they choose what matters, and they remove what does not. This is difficult, because elimination requires honesty. You must look at your habits, your routines, your distractions, and ask yourself a simple question. Does this move me forward? If the answer is no, it must be reduced or removed. This is where focus begins. Not by adding more tasks, but by clearing space. Space for deep thinking, space for meaningful work, space for clarity. Each time you eliminate a distraction, you reclaim attention. Each time you remove something unnecessary, you strengthen your focus. And over time, your mind becomes clearer, stronger, more directed. A mentally strong person is not busy. They are intentional. They do less, but with greater focus, greater depth, greater impact. This is the difference, because clarity begins when you eliminate what does not matter. 5. You must train your mind to stay still. There is something most people struggle with: silence, stillness, doing nothing. Not because it is difficult physically, but because it is difficult mentally. The moment things become quiet, the mind begins to wander, thoughts appear, distractions emerge, and without realizing it, you reach for something. Your phone, a task, a distraction, anything to avoid stillness. But this habit weakens your focus, because focus requires control, and control requires stillness. The Stoics practiced this, not as a trend, but as discipline. The philosopher Seneca valued time alone, time to think, time to reflect, time to observe the mind. Because he understood something powerful. If you cannot sit with your thoughts, you cannot control them. A strong person trains their mind to remain still, to stay present, to resist the urge to escape. This is not easy. At first it feels uncomfortable, restless, even frustrating, but that discomfort is part of the process, because it reveals how your mind has been conditioned to seek stimulation, to avoid silence, to chase distraction. But with practice, something changes. You begin to notice your thoughts more clearly. You become aware of patterns, of habits, of impulses, and with awareness comes control. Each time you sit in stillness, you strengthen your ability to focus. Each time you resist distraction, you build discipline. Over time, your mind becomes calmer, more stable, more controlled. This is where deep focus comes from. Not from constant activity, but from the ability to remain still when necessary. A mentally strong person is comfortable in silence because they are in control of their thoughts. They do not need constant stimulation. They do not need constant distraction. They can simply be present, and in that presence they find clarity. Each morning, when you allow yourself a moment of stillness, something shifts. Your mind slows down, your thoughts become clearer, your focus becomes stronger. If this message is encouraging you to embrace stillness, subscribe to the channel, because control begins when you learn to sit with your mind. 6. Consistency builds unbreakable focus. There is a reason your focus feels strong some days and completely gone on others. It is not random, it is not luck, it is consistency. Most people treat focus like something they turn on when needed. They try to concentrate when it matters, but ignore it when it does not. They allow distraction during small moments. They lose attention in everyday situations, and then expect deep focus when it is time to perform. But focus does not work like that. It is not a switch, it is a skill, and like any skill, it is built through repetition. The Stoics understood this deeply. They trained their minds daily, not only in moments of importance, but in ordinary moments. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius did not practice discipline only when it was convenient. He practiced it constantly, in how he thought, in how he acted, in how he responded, because he understood that consistency builds strength. Each time you focus, you strengthen your ability to focus again. Each time you lose focus, you reinforce distraction. This is how your mind is shaped, not by occasional effort, but by daily repetition. A strong person treats every moment as training. When they eat, they focus. When they work, they focus. When they listen, they focus. Because they understand that attention is a muscle, and it must be trained continuously. Over time, something powerful happens. Focus becomes natural, effortless, sustained, because it has been practiced, repeated, reinforced. This is how unbreakable focus is built. Not through intensity, but through consistency. Each morning, when you remind yourself to stay consistent, you remove pressure. You stop expecting perfection and start committing to repetition, because repetition creates mastery, because mastery is built daily. 7. Your environment controls your attention. There is something most people overlook when trying to improve focus. Their environment. They try to force discipline while surrounded by distraction. They try to concentrate in spaces designed to break concentration, and then they wonder why it feels so difficult. But the truth is simple. Your environment shapes your behavior. More than motivation, more than intention, because your surroundings constantly influence your attention. The Stoics understood this in a deeper way. They valued simplicity, they reduced excess, they removed unnecessary noise, because they knew that clarity outside creates clarity inside. The philosopher Seneca believed that a cluttered life leads to a cluttered mind, and that includes your environment. A strong person designs their surroundings intentionally. They remove distractions. They create space for focus. They reduce unnecessary input because they understand that discipline is easier in the right environment and harder in the wrong one. Each notification, each sound, each visual distraction pulls your attention away, even if only for a moment. And those moments add up. They break your concentration. They reduce your ability to stay focused. A mentally strong person does not rely on willpower alone. They reduce the need for it. They create an environment that supports focus, not one that fights against it. This is practical, simple, but powerful. Turn off notifications, clear your workspace. Create a space where focus becomes easier, because when your environment supports your goal, your effort becomes more effective. Each morning when you prepare your environment, something changes. You remove resistance, you reduce distraction, you make focus natural, because your surroundings shape your success. 8. You must control your inner dialogue. There is a voice that never stops. It speaks when you wake up. It speaks when you hesitate. It speaks when you fail. And most of the time, you do not question it. You accept it, you follow it, you become it. This voice is your inner dialogue, and it shapes everything: how you see yourself, how you approach challenges, how you respond to difficulty. Most people allow this voice to run unchecked. When something goes wrong, it becomes negative, critical, doubtful. It says you are not ready, not capable, not good enough. And over time, those thoughts become beliefs, and those beliefs become limitations. The Stoics understood something powerful. Your thoughts are not facts. They are interpretations. The teacher Epictetus taught that we must question our impressions, because not every thought deserves to be believed. A strong person does not blindly follow their inner voice. They examine it, they challenge it, they reshape it. When doubt appears, they do not accept it immediately. They ask, is this true? Is this useful? Is this helping me move forward? And if the answer is no, they replace it, not with false positivity, but with clarity. With truth, with strength. This is how your mind changes, not by ignoring negative thoughts, but by correcting them. Each time you replace a weak thought with a stronger one, you rewire your thinking. Each time you challenge doubt, you reduce its power. Over time, your inner dialogue becomes different, calmer, more focused, more disciplined, and that changes everything. Because now, your thoughts are not working against you, they are working for you. Each morning, when you become aware of your inner dialogue, something shifts. You stop reacting to your thoughts and start guiding them, because your thoughts shape your reality. 9. Protect your energy ruthlessly. There is something more valuable than time, more powerful than motivation, more important than even focus. Your energy, because without energy, you cannot act, you cannot think clearly, you cannot stay disciplined. And yet, most people lose their energy without realizing it. They give it to distractions, to negativity, to unnecessary stress, to things that do not move their life forward. And by the time they need it, it is gone. The Stoics understood the importance of protecting their inner state. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself not to be disturbed by things outside his control, because disturbance drains energy. And without energy, discipline weakens. A strong person becomes selective, not just with their time, but with their attention, with their environment, with their interactions. They do not engage in every conversation. They do not react to every opinion. They do not allow every situation to affect them. Because they understand something most people overlook. Where your attention goes, your energy follows, and where your energy goes, your results are shaped. Each time you react unnecessarily, you lose something: clarity, focus, momentum. And over time, those losses accumulate. They slow your progress. They weaken your discipline. A mentally strong person protects their energy ruthlessly. They guard their attention. They choose what deserves their focus, and they ignore what does not. This is not avoidance. It is strategy. It is discipline. It is control. Each morning, when you remind yourself to protect your energy, something changes. You become more aware, more intentional, more focused. You begin to act with purpose, instead of reacting without thought, and that shift creates results. Because control begins with what you protect. 10. Discipline rebuilds everything. There comes a point where you realize something uncomfortable. Your lack of focus is not random. Your inconsistency is not accidental. Your distractions are not harmless. They are patterns. Patterns you have repeated, reinforced, strengthened over time. And those patterns have shaped your life. But here is the truth most people avoid. If patterns can weaken you, they can also rebuild you. This is where discipline comes in, not as punishment, not as restriction, but as structure, as direction, as control. The Stoics did not see discipline as something negative. They saw it as freedom, because when you are disciplined, you are no longer controlled by impulses. You are no longer dependent on motivation. You are no longer distracted by everything around you. You become stable, focused, intentional. The philosopher Seneca believed that self-control is the foundation of strength, because without it, everything else collapses. A strong person does not wait to rebuild their discipline. They start where they are, with small actions, small decisions, small changes, because they understand that discipline is not built in one moment. It is built in many. Each time you choose focus over distraction, you rebuild discipline. Each time you act instead of delay, you rebuild discipline. Each time you stay consistent when it is difficult, you rebuild discipline. And over time, those moments compound. They create habits, they shape identity, they transform your life. This is the process, simple but demanding, because it requires repetition, it requires commitment, it requires patience, but it works every time. Because discipline is reliable, it does not depend on how you feel, it depends on what you do. and what you do repeatedly becomes who you are. Each morning, when you remind yourself that discipline rebuilds everything, something shifts. You stop waiting for change and start creating it, because discipline is what transforms your life. There is a version of you that is focused, clear, disciplined, in control, a version of you that does not get distracted easily, that does not delay important actions, that does not rely on motivation to move forward. That version already exists, not somewhere outside you, but within you. It is built, not found, created, not discovered, through your actions, through your habits, through your discipline. Most people never reach that version of themselves, not because they cannot, but because they do not build it. They wait, they hesitate, they rely on motivation, they allow distractions to control them, and over time that becomes their identity. But you are not fixed. You are not limited. You are shaped by what you repeat. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily of who he needed to be, not who he felt like being, but who he chose to become. A strong person does the same. They define their identity, and then they act in alignment with it, each day, each moment, each decision. This is how transformation happens, not suddenly, but gradually, not dramatically, but consistently. Each time you choose focus, you become more focused. Each time you choose discipline, you become more disciplined. Each time you resist distraction, you become stronger. And over time, those choices shape your life. This is the truth. Simple, but powerful. Your mind determines your direction. Your habits determine your results. Your discipline determines your future. Each morning is an opportunity to build that version of yourself, to strengthen your focus, to rebuild your discipline, to take control. If you use that opportunity consistently, everything begins to change. You think differently, you act differently, you live differently, because you are no longer reacting to life, you are directing it. If you made it this far, it means something in you is ready to improve, ready to rebuild, ready to take control. But what matters now is action, not tomorrow, not later. Now, take one idea from this video and apply it, because that is where change begins. If this video helped you think differently, if it gave you clarity, if it pushed you to take control, subscribe to the channel. This is where you strengthen your mind. This is where you become the version of yourself you have been avoiding. And when you rebuild your discipline, you rebuild your life. Everything you want begins there.